It's really weird what people think of eating disorders when they've had no experience.
100%. I think a lot of people, they think about eating disorder being a way to manage weight, and it's a vanity thing, like being skinny. And that's obviously not the case. I don't know what you girls think about.
I think people think that eating disorder is just for the people that are too skinny. They don't want to eat because they want to be thinner. They decide that they don't want to eat. It's their decision, and not looking at the people that are actually overeating as well, because that's also an eating disorder, I think.
No, for 100%. I just think, like, people do think that perception of eating disorder is just completely starve yourself, because they think that it's a wanting thing to do, or it's not. It's actually not. It's actually, part of a mental illness. It's a psychological thing where your brain actually does take over and forces you to actually stop eating as well, even though and to overeat as well. So there's that really broad spectrum of people saying, why do you do it? So
I think a lot of people think that by looking at someone's body shape and size, that's what they determine that person has an eating disorder, they don't. And I think a lot of people only think of an eating disorder as someone who's very underweight, where you could have an underweight person who eats normally and does not have anything going on up here. And I think it's what's going on up here that determines, is there a problem with eating and all the other behaviours that come with it. So there is a lot of misperceptions
100%
out there. I remember talking to one girl, I wasn't talking to her, she was sharing her story, and said when she was in hospital treatment for anorexia, one of the clinicians said, you don't deserve help because you did this to yourself.
Oh gosh.
So even amongst the professional people, there's a little understanding of how complex they are.
There's not a lot of sympathy too, because people look and just eat.
Yeah.
Why don't you just go get something to eat? You're doing this to yourself. You can eat, just pick up the food and put
Or
it
don't eat.
Or don't eat.
Exactly.
Stop
Stop eating. Stop eating.
Yeah.
Like, one cookie is enough, or one chip is enough. Why do you have to empty the entire packet of cookies or packet of chips? But they don't understand that it's like, as you said, like it's something that psychologically stops you from eating, or psychologically does not allow you to stop. So it's like a psychological issue and not a body image issue that a lot of people think it might be.
Yeah.
I couldn't even reward myself with even just a glass of water on some days though. Like, I didn't actually feel like I was worthy to actually put anything into my body. It was almost like a reward thing that I was taking away.
Yeah.
That real punishment that's my mind had actually taken over to say, you can't have it. You don't deserve to have it.
Yeah.
So
Do
I
you get
avoided.
like hungry feeling? Do you feel?
Do I get it? Not really. Your stomach and your brain get past the hunger feeling, So I'll go absolutely weeks, and I'll be stepping on the scales constantly. This is like 4, 5, 6 times a day, stepping on the scales to see that I'm going down another 50 grams, another 20 grams. So until it gets to the point where physically your body, you can't even stand up any longer.
So if we were to describe to someone that has never heard of an eating disorder what it is, how would you describe it to them?
I would say when there's some form of emotion or power associated with food or exercise. Obviously exercise can also be used as a punishment, or if you have overeaten, some people, they use compensatory mechanisms in order to control their behaviours. So when there's an emotion attached to food, a negative emotion I should say, food is supposed to be enjoyed without guilt, and you should be able to sit here like we're doing today, enjoying treats, enjoying crackers, enjoying like a bit of fresh fruit like strawberries, and not have any emotions attached to that food that will impact us in a negative way. We should not need to go away from here feeling guilty for breaking food rules.
So would you say that eating disorders have an emotional attachment that you're trying to control with something that you can control? How would, like, if we were to describe it to someone? So Inga's just said there's a strong negative emotion attached to something normal like eating, which is to sustain us and to keep us alive and our body functioning properly. But when you have an eating disorder, it becomes a whole lot more than just
It takes over your life.
sustenance. So it takes over your life. How else would you tell somebody, Penny?
What would I tell someone? Goodness.
Or to just try and describe
To
an eating-
describe it, as I said, it's a real mental control thing. So for me, and I've gone from like one spectrum to the other, where I've been at 41 kilos and I've been at 80 kilos. And it's just like that 40 kilos in between, there's a lot of mental health in that 40 kilos.
Yeah, so that just shows it's got nothing to do with your body weight and size. It's got everything to do with the association and of what you're doing in a normal action and what's going on.
100%. I definitely believe that.
Yeah.
It's like binge eating. When you binge eat, you're not actually thinking about what you're eating. It's not about, I'm hungry and I want to eat, I'm not going to stop. Like, a binge eater could eat anything. Cold pizza from the night before, your leftover bread, anything. Whatever is there, and just to get that full feeling, because you're feeling a little bit like you need something, you need some comfort, so you just, whatever's in front of you, you just eat it, and just until you feel nearly sick, and you can't literally eat anymore, and then you think back and you think, what just happened? It's like your brain sort of just switches off and you can't stop. So it just, because you're eating so fast, and then after a while you're like, oh my god, I just ate, great, so I'm not going to eat for 2 days. And that's what would happen, because then I wouldn't eat. And the cycle just in this cycle, you just can't get out of it.
So even for me to eat like the smallest portion of food was so exhausting, to actually put something tiny in front of me, and to be in front of my kids who knew I was struggling so difficultly, and they just, of course they had that perception of, Mum, just eat, eat, and I was just like, I just can't. I just can't. Something in my head kept saying, you just, as I said, I go back to it, it was like a reward. I can't reward myself because the power of my mind had taken over to say I didn't deserve to actually put something so nourishing into my body for me to cope on a daily basis.
But that was one of the things I wanted to discuss, was how did we feel when people saw us eating, like what thoughts were going through our minds. So for me, when I was ingrained in this, and it was a form of control for me, I felt that if anyone saw me eating, that I had failed, because I felt that I was worthy if I was not eating, and if people saw me eating, then in my eyes I had failed, and in their eyes I had failed. And it was a fear of, for me, it became a fear of putting on the weight, but the fear for that was my parents are not going to listen to me anymore, because I felt that I was loved if I was engaging in these behaviours. So if people saw me doing the opposite and eating, then I was not going to be loved.
What about if you're in like a social setting and everyone was eating?
Wouldn't put myself in a social setting.
You used to cook.
Or if I was out in a social setting, the desire to not eat became even stronger, because it was like, I am stronger than you because I am not going to eat like you are.
I had
Therefore, it was like screwed thinking. I feel better about myself if I'm not going to engage and socialise with you and eat.
I was the same. Like, I felt empowered if I picked, because I didn't suffer from clinical eating disorder, but I had a very unhealthy relationship with food. So if I went out to social environments or restaurants and things like that, I was only able to go to certain restaurants that served certain types of food that was clean and healthy. I felt empowered if I picked the healthiest food on the menu, and I felt empowered if turning dessert down if everyone else was eating dessert. Walking through the supermarket, I felt like I was like superior to everyone else because my shopping trolley just contained
All the green stuff.
all the green stuff and like no treats or chocolate or anything like that you can enjoy in moderation.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong about including that in your diet in moderation. But in my disordered mind, I was walking around there, I'm like, oh, look at your shopping trolley, you got chips. I'm so much better than you.
Yeah, I still
Wow.
do it.
I'm
I
the
still
one
do
that was
I was
Yeah.
at the deli the other day, and I
Yeah.
like this guy had this trolley. I was just like looking at everything he put in. I was just like, oh wow! I'm like, it's still there. That doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't think that leaves you.
no,
So
I
it's
still
like you still live with it every day.
yes, yes.
The things that we live with, it's on an everyday basis.
But now, like back then, I did not acknowledge that as being unhealthy.
Yeah, you
patterns.
thought
Yeah.
it was healthy.